If you're an Indian company, either one of the giants of the Indian economy who are already extremely experienced at operating internationally, or you're the next level down and international expansion is for you just becoming a possibility, then it's an interesting world to navigate. And there are parts of the world, like Africa for instance, which has managed to stay largely immune, sub-Saharan Africa particularly, stay rather immune from all of the trials and tribulations, both economic and political, that have been going on in other parts of the world. So the International Monetary Fund forecasting 8% continental growth in Africa in the year ahead. We see a very changed investment reality. And it's those kind of places that a lot of our Indian clients are starting to look at as they start to contemplate life outside India. Well, the most demanding situation to be resolved is the situation in the Middle East right now, because it has such a knock-on impact onto hydrocarbon prices around the world. So any escalation in the problem between Iran and Israel, any attempt to block the Straits of Hormuz, has an immediate impact on both the price of oil and the price of gas. And for economies like China, Japan, India, that import so much of their hydrocarbon requirements, this can have a very significant impact on economic growth and the investment climate for people. I don't know. I think that's a very beguiling picture to paint of Afghanistan starting to play a kind of pivotal role in the regeneration of kind of trade and energy exchange in this part of the world. But I think the problems that beset Afghanistan right now are so profound that it's going to take quite a long time before Afghanistan can play anything like a meaningful role in the kind of regional trade and economic cooperation. Well, Pakistan is one of those countries that, despite a lot of, if you like, geopolitical red flags to international investors, continues to be a successful place for many people to do business.
Really?
It's one of those countries that succeeds despite itself on one level. And that's kind of one of the interesting aspects of this business, is that if you were to devise a set of indicators that would deter people from investing in a country, Pakistan will fulfill quite a few of those, and yet for many people, Pakistan is a place where they do business quite successfully, are managing to, if you like, do so despite what can on the surface appear to be a kind of dysfunctional political and kind of commercial environment. What is potentially in the shorter term more worrying is the chances of some kind of incident occurring in the Straits of Hormuz that would cause Iran to block the Straits. And that you've got to build in the kind of accident factor here, that something could go wrong. One vessel could attack another vessel, an aircraft could be shot down, as has happened before. It's such a tense situation, and with a very significant military build-up in the region, the chances that something could go wrong that would lead to a reaction by Iran, that I'm afraid is much higher likelihood in the next 12 months than an Israeli strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. This is one of the sort of actual global themes now that we are asked about by clients genuinely all around the world, is the risk of getting embroiled in a major corruption scandal. Those countries that have extraterritorial legislation, principally the United States through the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and more recently countries like the United Kingdom that have introduced their own slightly souped up version of the FCPA with extraterritorial kind of capabilities, mean that companies pretty well anywhere that are trading internationally have got to be mindful of the fact that not just that this legislation exists, but that there is kind of an enforcement agenda, particularly coming out of the United States. both the public and the political mood is turning against this problem, and whilst it's a long haul to introduce governance standards and transparency into an economy as dynamic as this, that the tide has turned against institutionalized corruption in parts of the Indian economy. And I think we would favour the latter interpretation, that global attitudes towards corruption are changing, Indian attitudes towards corruption are changing, the regulatory and legislative context has changed fundamentally for international companies as well.